Alright, hello everyone, this is Juicebox again. This is going to be the fourth and final video on the mechanics and the systems that are going on in Yatagarasu. The previous two videos covered everything except parries, and that's because I want this video to specifically focus on parries, which this game calls button locking, and all the things that are going on as far as how you can parry, timings and things like that. There's quite a lot to cover, so let me just go ahead and get started here. Grind their bones to dust. Alright. Alright. So, parries in this game are officially referred to as button lock. You have a high button lock and a low button lock. And you can do the parries, or button locks, by pressing the appropriate buttons. You'll notice that I can just sort of press these buttons whenever I want. Those two lighted boxes show up. And there's no recovery per se on a parry. You can attempt it whenever you want, and it is more or less safe. More or less, I'm going to get into the specifics of in just a moment here. But as far as parries are concerned, the actual press of the button produces the parry attempt. If you hold it, nothing is really going on, and releasing it does nothing. So only the press of the button is what matters here. You might say, well, why can't I just press both buttons and parry everything at the same time if there's no recovery? Well, because pressing both parry buttons at the same time only gives you a high parry. Okay, so high parry out-prioritizes low parry on the input hierarchy. So pressing both only gives you a high parry, so it doesn't really do anything. You can only parry one zone at a time. An important thing that separates parries in this game from, say, parries in Third Strike is that you can parry while blocking. So you can be holding back or you can be holding down back, and you can still parry both zones. I'm holding back, and I parried low. Holding down back, and I parried high. Holding down back, parry low. Holding back, parry high. So you can parry the zone that you are not blocking in this game. So that makes it that makes defense a little bit stronger in this game, or at least it would appear to. Oop. Block high, low parry. Block low, high parry. Okay. And if you are in the air, if you are in the air, either button works. It doesn't matter which button you press. Woo. Also, there's one other thing that really separates the parry in this game from Third Strike, and it's kind of an important thing, but there is a way to increase the parry window on your parries. Let me go ahead and try to illustrate this. Okay, I want to show you here that, let's see here. Notice here when I'm pressing the parry, I'm pressing it just as Ko gets to the top of his jump. And I'm a little bit early. I keep getting hit by that. See that? I'm early because I'm pressing that parry button. Oh, there you go. That was just right. Like, as you can see, because I'm pressing this button too early, I'm not really doing anything good. But I can increase the parry window like I was saying. We fail again. There we go. Ouch. Too early. Too early. But watch this. Notice how early I pressed that, but that actually worked that time. Oop. Little too early. This is a very, 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 very small thing. This is not going to be something that as a beginner is going to be incredibly important. But if you press forward before you press a high parry, or while you press a high parry, you actually increase the window that high parry can come out. Again, you have to be holding forward, and you press high parry, and that increases the window for the high parry by just a couple of frames. Okay? And you can also do that with a crouching parry by holding down forward. Okay, I'll illustrate here. I'm holding, let's see here. I'm going to hold straight down so that if I miss the parry, I'm going to get hit here. I'm going to hit it too early. Too early, right? Too early. Too early. But if I hold down forward... Nope, still too early. There we go. A little later. Just before they land. Too early. Just before they land. Too early. Holding down forward. Just before they land. Right. Okay. So as you can see, I'm parrying at just about the same timing. Just before Ko hits the ground, I hit the low parry. But if you hold down forward, you increase the window on the low parry. Now, this actually also applies while holding back, the window changes. While holding forward, the window changes on both high and low parries. While holding down back, the window changes on high and low parries. On down forward, the window changes on high and low parries. If you would like a breakdown of the actual numbers of how many frames it actually increases and decreases those parry windows, one of the links in the more info section is a Google document in English that has a bunch of translated information from the Japanese wiki. We've translated a bunch of those numbers, and basically what it comes down to is holding forward on a high parry and holding down forward on a low parry is the best way to increase the windows of those parries. Holding back or down back, or being at neutral for various parries, including in the air, okay, changes the windows for those parries, and you can read about those numbers in that guide. But it's one of the ways that parrying is different in this game from Third Strike. You can actually increase the windows of those parries, so you can make it more likely for those parries to actually work. If you are familiar with Third Strike, there is something called a red parry. Basically, a red parry is exactly the same as a regular parry, except you can do it during a true block string. Okay, so this super fireball here is a true block string. There's nothing that I can do in the middle of these fireball things. Like, as soon as I block the first one, there's really nothing that I can do. I can't uppercut, I can't super, I can't do anything. And if I let go of the stick, I get hit. So I have to guard the whole thing, right? So you might say, well, I have no life, I don't want to guard the whole thing. If you have perfect timing, you can parry in the middle of a true block string. And this produces a red graphical effect. If you mistime this parry, your guard is broken and you will get hit. If you try to parry during a true block string and you screw it up, then you're gonna get hit. Like an example here. Try to parry high, I'm gonna get screwed up. Ow. Try to parry high. Ow. See? I'm holding back, so I should be able to block high attacks. But because I attempted to parry a true block string, that opened up my guard. Okay? But if you time it perfect... I time it perfect. A little early. Bam! If you time it perfect, you absolutely can parry a true block string and then screw them up. Just get this in the corner here. Oh, I'm terrible. There we go. Still too early. There we go. So, ultimately what a red parry enables you to do is if your opponent's strings are very, very predictable and you know that they always do 3 crouching light kicks, you could learn, say in training mode, the timing to red parry the third one and then punish them for that. Whether it's on block, excuse me, if they always do like a true block string, if you always know that they're completely safe, you can practice red parry timings to try and screw them up for that. But the window on a red parry is 3 frames. Again, there's more information in that document if you'd like to look that up. That is a way that you can take advantage of a predictable opponent if you spend the time in training mode. Let's see here. So, with all this information, you might say, well, why wouldn't I just mash parry all the time? You know, I can parry low while blocking high, I can parry high while blocking low. Why don't I just do this? And how am I not, you know, completely undefeatable? And let me give you two major answers, okay? When you attempt to press a parry, there is a window of time that has to pass, okay? If that window of time does not pass, then pressing the parry button again does not produce a parry attempt. So, if you do this and you mash on a parry button, none of these button presses are actually producing parries because I'm not letting the recovery window of the parry attempt pass. The window, I don't know exactly how big it is, but it's about this big. Okay? Ultimately, if you're mashing on a parry button, you're not actually parrying anything. Just to illustrate. See this? I'm parrying high. Why aren't I parrying this fireball? I'll tell you why. Because you're not letting that parry button actually recover. So none of this is a parry. You have to wait for it. And you have to time it right. This does nothing. That is true of both high and low parry. If you're just pressing the buttons willy-nilly, every single button press after the first one doesn't really produce an actual parry. Okay? Now these are independent, so you could be mashing low parry, and then you time the high parry correctly. That's fine. But of course, mashing low parry is doing nothing. Basically, you're just timing a high parry properly. They are independent of each other. So the recovery for high parry does not spill over into what allows you to low parry and vice versa. Okay? Let's see. Now, so that's one reason why you don't want to mash parry. Now, let's say you're not mashing and you're actually attempting to time all your parries properly. Well, you know, is there still some sort of risk? Like, if I block high and just parry low once on wake up, is that relatively safe? Well, the answer is kind of, okay? The idea is, if you attempt to parry, but then you are hit because you parried the wrong zone, or because you tried to parry during a 2-block string and you screwed up, what's called a BL counter is registered. Okay? I'm going to turn BL counter on right here. Okay? So BL stands for button lock. But if you BL counter someone on the ground, if they try to parry low and you hit them high, if they try to parry high and you hit them low, okay, you get an extra 50% damage on whatever it is that BL countered. You can BL counter with specials, with command normals, with pretty much anything. Oh. You'll also notice that the dummy will parry some things when you set them to BL counter, and that's because if the dummy parries something while BL counter is on, it's because that move can be parried both high and low, so it's unlikely you're actually going to BL counter with that move. Okay? So what does a BL counter on the ground get you? Well, it gets you extra hit stun and an extra 50% damage. This close fierce does 85-20. Turn BL counter off. And close fierce does, I forgot to recover, 5500. Okay? So 5500, but then the BL counter comes on, and I get 8250. So that's quite a nice extra chunk of damage. But you also get extra hit stun. Normally, Crow's close fierce doesn't combo into anything unless you cancel it, right? But by itself, if you BL counter, you could link a super, and you can also link some other things. I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss it a few times. Too early. There we go. If you have really good timing on a BL counter, you can create links for yourself. On the ground, when you BL counter someone, you get an extra 3 frames of hit stun on that attack. And if you do continue the combo, let's say you land this crouching light kick here, that crouching light kick has 2 extra frames of hit stun. So it's kind of like a fatal counter in some of the other fighting games like BlazBlue and such, where you get increased hit stun on a number of attacks. You BL counter, that hit has 3 extra frames of hit stun, the next hit in the combo has two extra frames of hit stun, and the next hit in the combo has 1 extra frame of hit stun. So it builds on itself, and you can create some really, really damaging combos, especially with, say, Shimo. Shimo has some great ways of taking advantage of BL counters. Time it wrong. There we go. No, did it wrong. So that's basically this game's version of getting extra hit stun, is if someone tries to parry something but you conk them in the face because they hit the wrong zone. That's one thing you can do to discourage mashing a parry on the ground. But Juice, what about mashing parry in the air? What if I just time a parry on a jump in? You know, what can they do about that? Well, it's even better in the air. If you BL counter someone in the air, because you hit them right after their parry window, let's just take a step back here. You know, on the ground, there's the high and the low, so you would BL counter them if they try to parry the wrong zone. They parry high, you hit them low. They parry low, you hit them high. But in the air, there's no high-low hit zones. So you BL counter someone in the air by hitting them right after they attempt to parry, and they parry too early. If you BL counter someone in the air, you pop them up for a juggle. And the extent of that juggle is character-specific. Some characters get kick-ass BL counter combos like Chada or Crow here. Hey! Oh, hold on. Counter! Hey! 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 You can get some absolutely ridiculous, meterless combos, by the way. If someone attempts to parry in the air and they time it wrong, you just go pop. Boom! Now, you don't get all of that. With Crow, you get 5 hits. Doesn't matter where they come from, you get 5 more hits. Best one I can find is Light Tatsu, Light Tatsu, Light Tatsu, Fierce Uppercut. There's probably better ones after that, but ultimately, you can BL counter with anything that isn't a light punch or a kick. You can BL counter with a special move, with a command normal. Let's just get 1 hit. Boom. I'm too early. I'm bad. I'm too early. Bam, there we go. So that BL counter that pops up, you get the same 5 hits, you know? Assuming you don't accidentally air reset them with a normal, you get 5 hits with Crow. The extent of the BL counters you get with other characters is character specific. Some characters get a lot, some characters don't get so much, and so that was a balance decision that was made by the designers. For example, Shimo. Shimo has great command dash pressure. Shimo has great ways of discouraging ground parries from ground to air. She doesn't get a great BL counter if she lands one. But Crow has a great one. Chada has a great one. And there are some other good examples as well. Please check my character tutorial videos in the future for more specific examples. And whether a BL counter happens in the air or on the ground, that BL counter, of course, will still do an extra 50% damage. So there's one last thing with parries. You might have been asking this entire time, what are those little blue lights that appear next to the parry windows when you actually parry something? And BL counter is on still. There we go. Notice that when I parry something, next to those little parry boxes, there are these little blue bullets that appear. Little blue meters, you could say, okay? What those are telling you is how close to the point of impact you actually parried. If you parry an attack as late as possible, you'll get 1 blue bar. So if there's more blue bars, that means that you hit the parry and you were successful, but further away. Notice, I'm hitting this one a little bit before it hits me, but it's still successful, and I get more blue bars. If I do it a little later, I get just the 1. If you do it too early and you get hit, it will also tell you how far off you were. Let me do it this way. Like, for example, let's try to low parry this, but be off. Notice those bars still show up like you were way off. Or if you get hit and then you try to parry, the bars show up like, you were too late. Notice that the bars show up red if you were too late. It's like, 2 bars. You were just too late. Or a bunch of red bars. You were way too late. Or bunch of blue bars. You were really early, but it still worked. Or what, like, you know, less blue bars means much, much closer to the timing. There we go. 2. So that's what those bars are for. They tell you how close you are or how late you were to the parry timing. And if they show up blue, that means they're successful. Red means you were too late. So that's just about all the systems in Yatagarasu. That's everything I want to tell you about parries in Yatagarasu. It's quite a lot to absorb, but if you understand the parry system, you'll really learn how to take advantage of people that are too predictable, or how to avoid chip death, or how to take advantage of people that always super jump and parry, and things like that. So if you use all that information, your offense and defensive abilities will skyrocket in this game, and I hope that they do for you. With that said, that's everything. That's all the parries. And that's all the systems and mechanics. The next video should be a character-specific video. It'll be an introduction video on one of the 8 characters of Yatagarasu. I hope you pick up the game when Attack on Cataclysm comes out. I know I will. I will see you guys later.